because the cells of a multicellular organism, like for example us humans, are going to be joined to other cells of the same kind to form tissues, we need to understand a little bit better how those cells of the same kind are attaching and associating with neighboring cells. Let's begin looking at cell junctions with plants. Plant cells are going to have surfaces that include a cell membrane. The cell membrane is going to be just on the inside. I'm activating my laser pointer. And so if you look at this illustration, if this is the cytoplasm of the cell, this structure that I said before regulates the materials that come in and out is going to be right there. If this is the cytoplasm of the neighboring cell, this is going to be the plasma membrane or cell membrane. In addition to plasma membranes, plant cells are also going to have cell walls. And in the case of plants, you see primary cell walls, which will be this layer you see right here. And the secondary cell wall in many plants is going to be much thicker. It's going to be a stronger structure compared to just the primary cell wall. And in between the cell wall of one plant and the cell wall of one plant cell and the cell wall of another plant cell, you're going to see this material called the lamella, which is going to be made of a sticky polysaccharide that almost helps glue cells together. That's one of the advantages of the lamella being sticky. In addition to those external surfaces, between plant cells that are forming a tissue, there are going to be also these tunnels. Imagine these like a perforation that goes from one cell straight into the cytoplasm of another cell. I'm going to enlarge the image. And so you can see the cytoplasm of one cell. This is the cytosol, the semi-liquid portion inside of the cell, and the organelles together, cytosol and organelles make the cytoplasm. And so here, you're going to see that there is a tunnel that goes from one cell and into the space of another one. And the advantage of these plasmodesmata is that plant cells can quickly share resources like water and maybe sugars without having to go through the plasma membrane, bypassing those gates that are controlling what moves in and making the movement faster as portions of the cytoplasm can be exchanged between cells. And so that's what you see in plant cells. Let's take a look at animal cells. Surfaces are going to include on the outside of the cell something called the extracellular matrix. This extracellular matrix many times is going to be made of proteins that again help cells find a place where they can stay anchored. And the extracellular matrix in some cases can be a dense kind of a tissue like bone or cartilage. Then animal cells also have a plasma membrane or cell membrane. And connecting animal cells, you're going to see first what we call tight junctions. These tight junctions are going to be made of proteins that are going to be sealing the space between cells. This is an example of intestinal cells, but the fluid with all the digesting stuff you have previously consumed cannot escape between the spaces between two adjacent cells. Water is kind of sneaky. Water will be able to make it through those tight junctions, but the things that are dissolved in water, like fatty acids, like sugars, proteins, those will not be able to make it through, and so they will continue their journey inside of the spaces, inside of the intestine. So that's the mission of tight junctions. Kind of like I said before, sealing the space between cells so that body solutions don't go across tissues. We also have desmosomes. Desmosomes in some cases are described also as anchoring junctions. Both names are appropriate, by the way, desmosomes or anchoring junctions. And these are made up of a portion of the cytoskeleton you have studied in cells, the intermediate filaments And some of those protein polymers are going to be extending from one cell to another. And the mission is literally like you can interlock your fingers, attach two cells so they don't rip apart. Tight junctions prevent fluids from going in. Anchoring junctions, desmosomes, lock cells together. A third type of junction you can find in animal cells are going to be gap junctions. These gap junctions are analogous, meaning they have a similar function as the plasmodesmata in plant cells. In what sense, you may ask? Gap junctions are going to be providing tunnels for portions of the cytoplasm containing water, sugar, and other valuable resources to be quickly shared between cells. And again, I'm going to try to enlarge this illustration. And you can see here the little tiny tunnel where cytoplasm from one cell can go in one direction and vice versa. Ions or small molecules in solution in the cytoplasm can go from this cell and travel to this one without going through the border patrol before having to go through the plasma membrane, which is a little more restrictive in terms of what substances can go across. So that's the mission of the gap junctions. And that's what helps cells be part of a tissue, to be anchored, to be tightly joined, and to have these gap junctions for allowing the sharing of resources when one cell is in need for receiving quickly materials that are necessary.